A single day in 2020 flipped Rachel Zegler's world upside down. At just 19, the rising star faced a health scare that shook her to her core. A lump in her breast, a doctor's visit, and the most intense anxiety of her life, all in 24 hours. This wasn't just a moment. It was the turning point that changed her forever. Stick around to uncover how this day reshaped her career, her mindset, and her entire future. Let's set the stage. It's September 29, 2020. Rachel Zegler, a 19-year-old actress from New Jersey, is on the cusp of stardom. She's already been cast as Maria in Steven Spielberg's upcoming remake of West Side Story, a role that would soon catapult her into global fame. But on this day, her world isn't filled with Hollywood dreams. Instead, it's consumed by fear. Rachel shared on X that she found a lump in her breast. What followed was a whirlwind. A doctor's visit, an ultrasound, a biopsy, and a flood of anxiety that she described as the worst of her life, all within a single day. This wasn't just a health scare, it was a moment that forced Rachel to confront her mortality, her priorities, and the fragility of the life she was building. To understand the weight of this day, we need to step back and look at who Rachel was. In 2020, born on May 3, 2001, in Hackensack, New Jersey, Rachel Ann Zegler grew up in Clifton, the daughter of Gina, who is of Colombian descent, and Craig, of Polish heritage. She was named after Rachel Green from Friends, a fun nod to her parents' love for the sitcom. From a young age, Rachel was drawn to performing. At 4, she saw her first Broadway show, Beauty and the Beast, and was hooked. By 12, she was acting in a local production of Fiddler on the Roof, playing Sprinzy. Her passion for theater grew through high school at Immaculate Conception High School, where she starred in musicals like Beauty and the Beast as Belle, The Little Mermaid as Ariel, 42nd Street as Dorothy Brock, and Shrek the Musical as Princess Fiona. She earned nominations for Metropolitan High School Theater Awards for each role, proving her talent early on. Her big break came in 2018 when Steven Spielberg announced an open casting call for West Side Story. Rachel, then 16, submitted videos of herself singing Tonight and I Feel Pretty, roles she had performed at the Bergen Performing Arts Center. Out of over 30,000 applicants, she landed the role of Maria. Filming wrapped in September 2019, and by 2020, Rachel was preparing for the film's release, originally slated for December 2020, but later delayed to 2021 due to the global pandemic. At 19, she was on the verge of becoming a household name, but the pressure of impending fame was already building. Now imagine being in Rachel's shoes on September 29, 2020. You're 19, you've just finished filming your first major movie with a legendary director, and the world is about to know your name. But then you find a lump. For anyone, that's terrifying. For a young woman with her whole career ahead of her, it's paralyzing. Rachel didn't hesitate. She acted fast. She saw a doctor, got an ultrasound, and had a biopsy done, all in the span of 24 hours. She later shared on X that the anxiety during this time was overwhelming. Waiting for biopsy results can feel like an eternity, and for Rachel, every second must have been agonizing. She was facing the possibility of a life-altering diagnosis while also carrying the weight of her upcoming debut in West Side Story. Let's pause here to consider the emotional toll. Rachel was no stranger to challenges. Growing up, she faced racial discrimination on social media due to her mixed Colombian and Polish heritage. She's spoken openly about the online harassment she endured, even as a teenager. But this health scare was different. It was personal, physical, and immediate. It wasn't just about her career or public image, it was about her survival. At 19, most people are figuring out their place in the world. Rachel was doing that while also navigating a potential health crisis that could change everything. The results of the biopsy aren't something Rachel has publicly detailed, but the fact that she continued her career trajectory suggests the outcome was not as severe as feared. What's clear, though, is that this day left a lasting mark. In interviews after 2020, Rachel has often spoken about the importance of grounding herself amidst the chaos of fame. She credits her family, her parents, her sister, and even her dog Lenny for keeping her sane. In a 2024 interview with People, she mentioned how her loved ones and her pet give her life structure, no matter how big her career gets. This perspective likely stems from moments like that day in September 2020, when she realized how quickly life can shift. So, how did this 24-hour ordeal change Rachel? First, it gave her a new sense of resilience. By 2021, when West Side Story finally hit theaters, Rachel was ready to take on the world. The film earned critical acclaim, and her performance as Maria won her a Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Motion Picture Musical or Comedy, the first actress of Colombian descent to win in that category, and at 20, the youngest ever. Critics praised her, with some calling her a revelation. David Ehrlich of IndieWire, in a later review of her work in The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, described her as absolutely captivating, noting her ability to convey nuance in a way that resonates even in large-scale films. But behind that success was a young woman who had already faced a moment of profound fear and come out stronger. This resilience became crucial as Rachel's career grew, and so did the scrutiny. After West Side Story, she took on roles in Shazam, Fury of the Gods in 2023, The Hunger Games prequel, and the animated film Spellbound. She made her Broadway debut in 2024 as Juliet in a modern revival of Romeo and Juliet, directed by Sam Gold, with music by Jack Antonoff. But her most high-profile role came in 2025, when she starred as Snow White in Disney's live-action remake, a role that thrust her into the center of controversy. The Snow White project was fraught with challenges from the start. Rachel faced backlash for her casting, with some criticizing Disney for choosing a Latina actress to play a character traditionally depicted as white as snow. Rachel addressed this in a 2022 Variety interview, saying, "You don't normally see Snow Whites who are of Latin descent, even though Snow White is a big deal in Spanish-speaking countries." She pointed out that her casting was about her talent. She could sing, not her appearance or heritage. But the criticism didn't stop there. In interviews, Rachel spoke about updating the character, focusing on Snow White's leadership rather than her love story. She told Extra TV that the original 1937 film felt dated, especially the prince's behavior, which she called weird and likened to stalking. These comments sparked outrage among Disney purists who felt she was disrespecting the classic. The controversy escalated when Rachel became vocal about political issues. In August 2024, after the Snow White trailer debuted at D23, she posted on X, "And always remember, free Palestine." The statement, which garnered 8.8 million views, drew backlash, especially given her co-star Gal Gadot's background as a former IDF instructor. Disney executives were reportedly shocked, and producer Mark Platt flew to New York to address her social media use. Then, after the 2024 U.S. presidential election, Rachel posted on Instagram, "Fuck Donald Trump," and "May Trump supporters never know peace." Disney intervened again, and Rachel began working with a social media professional to vet her posts. By the time Snow White hit theaters in March 2025, the film was mired in negative press. It opened to a disappointing $87 million worldwide, a far cry from its $270 million budget. After a month, it had earned just $181.6 million globally, with Disney facing a projected $115 million loss. Some blamed Rachel's outspokenness for the film's failure, with Jonah Platt, the producer's son, claiming her actions clearly hurt the movie's performance. Others pointed to broader issues, like the film's mixed reviews, 40% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics, though audiences gave it a 72% score, and the decision to use CGI for the dwarfs, which drew criticism from actors like Peter Dinklage. But let's tie this back to that day in 2020. The Rachel Zegler who faced the Snow White backlash was not the same person she was before her health scare. That 24-hour period taught her to prioritize what truly matters: her health, her family, her values, over public opinion. In a 2025 interview with Vogue Mexico, she said, "What an honor to be part of something that people feel so passionate about. We're not always going to have the same feelings as everyone around us, and all we can do is give the best of ourselves." This mindset reflects a maturity that likely came from facing her own vulnerability at 19. She learned early on that life is unpredictable, and that lesson gave her the strength to stand by her beliefs even when it cost her. Rachel's career didn't end with Snow White's box office flop. She's already lined up for more projects, including a West End debut as Eva Peron in Evita in summer 2025 at the London Palladium, directed by Jamie Lloyd. She's been recognized on Forbes' 30 Under 30 list in 2022 and named one of AP Entertainment's Breakthrough Entertainers of 2021. At 23, she's still a rising star, but one who's been shaped by moments of profound challenge, like that day in September 2020. Looking deeper, this health scare also highlights a broader issue: the pressure on young stars in the entertainment industry. Rachel was 19 when she faced this crisis, already carrying the weight of a major film role and the expectations that came with it. The lack of privacy, having to share such a personal moment on X, speaks to the intense scrutiny she was under even then. By 2025, that scrutiny had only grown, with every word she said dissected by fans, critics, and the media. Yet, she's continued to speak out, whether about representation, politics, or her own experiences. In a 2024 Variety interview, she said, "I can't watch children die," referring to her advocacy for Palestinians. That conviction, that willingness to stand firm, can be traced back to the clarity she gained during her health scare. Another layer to consider is how this moment affected Rachel's mental health. She's been open about the toll of fame, mentioning in interviews how her family and her dog Lenny keep her grounded. In a 2023 episode of the podcast Life is Short with Justin Long, she talked about how her dream of being a Broadway star was put on hold, but also how her life changed after West Side Story. The anxiety she felt during her health scare likely lingered, shaping how she handles stress today. Her Instagram bio changes in March 2025, first to Golden Globes winner Who Does Hard Things, then to Fearless, Fair, Brave, and True, and finally to Lenny's mom, show a young woman trying to define herself amidst chaos. That chaos, in part, stems from the lessons of 2020, knowing what's worth fighting for and what's not. Let's also think about the cultural context of 2020. The world was in the grip of a pandemic, with uncertainty everywhere. For Rachel, this health scare came at a time when the future already felt shaky. West Side Story's release had been delayed, and the entertainment industry was on hold. Facing a personal crisis in the middle of a global one must have amplified her fear. Yet, it also gave her perspective. In a 2021 interview with People en Español, she spoke about how working on West Side Story helped her connect with her Colombian heritage, realizing how much she had in common with other Latinos. That sense of identity, of rootedness, likely became even more important after her health scare, grounding her as her career took off. One final angle: the impact in her fans. Rachel has always been vocal about spreading kindness, as seen in her YouTube bio, where she thanks fans and asks them to be kind to each other. Her sharing of this health scare on X in 2020 wasn't just a personal release. It was a moment of vulnerability that resonated with her audience. For young fans, especially those who look up to her as a Latina actress breaking barriers, seeing her navigate such a human experience likely made her more relatable. It showed that even stars face fear, and that it's okay to seek help and lean on loved ones. Rachel's openness about her struggles, from this health scare to the Snow White backlash, has made her a figure of authenticity in an industry often criticized for its lack of it. So that 24-hour period in September 2020 didn't just test Rachel Zegler, it defined her. It gave her the strength to face Hollywood's storms, from Golden Globe wins to box office flops, all while staying true to herself. But here's the thing. There's another moment in Rachel's life, one that happened just months later, that might have changed her even more. What could it be? You'll have to wait and see.